From FinStrat CFO, it's the Keep Going podcast with your host, Joe Hamrahi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Keep Going, the podcast from FinStrat CFO, where we explore resilience, reinvention, and what it takes to lead with integrity through uncertainty. Today, I'm very excited to have Eric Winkfield join us. Eric is the Vice President General Manager at M Booth, where he leads agency's diversity, equity, inclusion efforts and advises on communications and cultural strategy. So Eric, thanks for joining us again. I know we've known each other for about 5+ years now.
Yeah,
It's been a long
absolutely.
journey. But tell us a little bit about your role, and then we'll dive into some more, interesting things that are going on now. But I also want to talk more about your background.
Fantastic. Well, Joe, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this, but also really proud and excited for you in this era and this journey that you're on, having these critical and really important conversations. So, as you said, my name is Eric Winkfield. I have the pleasure and honor of leading diversity, equity, and inclusion at M Booth as well as M Booth Health. As well as sit as a senior counselor on doing corporate communications, employee engagement, executive visibility, and all things corporate affairs communications within our corporate practice on the Booth side. I have literally just come here. This is when I got here, this is a newer role here at the agency. We've been doing diversity, equity, and inclusion for some time prior to me getting here. But I'm the first formal lead to kind of really take it, build a strategy, integrate it into our business, but also make sure that it actually makes sense on the aspect of how we continue to grow to really meet the needs of not only our clients, but also the customers and the consumers they want to reach and connect to as well. And so I get the privilege of being a connector, a bridge builder, a listener, and truly a shaper in partnership with so many incredible people. You were one of the first people I got a chance to partner with when I got here as well.
Yeah, Eric and I have a really great relationship, and I've asked him to come on here and talk about a lot of the different things that he's done in his life, from where his upbringing through now. And
Mhm.
it's a great journey, and that's why he's a great person for this podcast. But he's also a really good friend, and
Yeah.
also beyond M Booth, Eric, where we obviously met and spent some time together.
Mhm.
You're involved in about 100 other things. We talk about this all the time because
Yeah.
we have this. You and I have this insatiable thirst to keep doing things and learning things
Yeah.
and growing. So tell us a little bit about some of those things you're involved in right now.
Sure thing. So for me, you're right. I am involved in a lot of things, but it's all geared towards really creating impact, right? Impact for a better industry, impact for better communicators. And I'm fiercely passionate about the conversation on leadership and what does leadership look like today and in the future. And so all throughout my career and life, service has been the center of how I support, grow, and really contribute to a better society, better world, and better industry. And so, one of the things that I'm proud to be involved in is the Planck Center for Leadership and Public Relations. Um, I got involved with the Planck Center, first heard about it when they reached out and honored me in 2018 as the Emerging Leader Award winner for their Milestones and Mentoring reception. And the thing about that particular award and why it struck me and meant so much to me was it wasn't an award based on like a campaign or a big career leap or something that I've done in the industry. It was executives and leaders and literally titans in our industry watching to see who are the people who are meaningfully thinking about the future of the profession and not just thinking about it, doing things with it, right? And so they honored me for the work that I didn't realize people were watching that I do in mentoring others. um, and was doing, and I believe, mentorship is a really powerful expression and a powerful activity to do in this industry because it truly cements and ensures that we are growing and grooming ethics. We're growing and grooming respect. We're also growing and grooming the type of leaders we want to see take over or to be passed the baton to carry this work forward. And so to be able to be seen as just me, and being that deemed worthy enough to be able to be honored. That was my introduction to the center. And so that then sparked me to go deeper to understanding that this center is really all about but named after our namesake Betsy Plank, who was known as the First Lady of Public Relations. She was dynamic in her own right when it comes to being able to advocate for students, advocate for mentorship, but also very, very sharply concerned about the direction that leadership looks like in our profession as well. Everything from not only just the work that gets done, but also the skills and the way we do it, the how we do it, was what she was sharply focused on. And so as I learned more, understand some of the work that the center does in preparing young professionals, having community conversations about what this direction looks like, I leaned in and I got invited to be even more involved in helping into those conversations and even talking about what does leadership look like and what are some of the traits, right, that we hope to see develop within leaders as they receive batons and take over moving forward.
Yeah, and I think Eric and I have a passion for mentorship. By the way, the Planck Center is associated with the University of Alabama.
Yeah.
So I think there's a number of schools across the country that are really doing a lot of great work for
Hmm.
students and the next generation of leaders in our PR space and communication space. But Eric and I have a real passion, like I said, for mentorship, and just
Hmm.
keep an eye out because we're talking about ideas going forward into 2026 that'll be more broader, and it may not be
Yeah.
specific to a location, but thinking about how we can give back in ways that could help people who are interested in careers in PR and communications and advertising, but in
Yeah.
also other disciplines. I mean, and I
Yeah.
think it kind of goes across all of them. So I'm going to jump back a little bit, Erica. Tell us a
Sure.
little bit about your youth, your community, your upbringing.
Hmm.
Like, what prepared you for this? I mean, like there's stereotypes around the generations and what you do,
Hmm.
your era and your age.
Hmm.
And tell us a little about what has prepared you now for like where you're going, what's up next. I mean,
Hmm.
you're also working on finishing your PhD. So
Yeah.
all those kinds of things that have helped shape your career.
So I would say my upbringing and my childhood, growing up, definitely had a huge part in how I see the world, and how I embrace the world, and even I think about my role, in helping evolve and for us to create better, around us, even in my little space where I operate and occupy. Right. So I'm born and raised in from Miami, Florida, and I tell everybody about me, I'm just Eric from Miami. Right. Because Miami really, growing up in Miami, was incredible in so many ways, but also very challenging in just as many ways as well. And so, I'm a product of a single family home, but not what you would think a single family home is like. And people are like, oh, just it's just my. I did have a mother who loved me and created and did things to make sure that I could be who I am today, from like working two jobs, from, but at the same, but like also making sure, as I grew up with others, that I did not feel different, right? She was really
Yeah.
intentional about doing what she had to do to make sure that I had opportunities and I had the ability to see the world and see life, not just from the perspective of just being from Miami. And so what I loved about being raised in Miami was Miami is really a cultural melting pot. You literally meet and see a little of everyone in the city. And I had the privilege of really going to, even through my uh, K through 12 experience, meeting different people from different cultures, different religions, different identities, and just learning different ways of living and ways of life outside of what I had to learn and grow up in my own as well. And so,
Right.
it's interesting that I look back at my childhood, and like it's kind of crazy when I think about that. My childhood really help prepare me to look at the world and see the world through multiple lenses the way that I do now. And so, also very involved, in my faith, right? So I grew up as a church kid. Although my grandfather was a deacon, my grandmother, she was a deacon's wife, so like that has its implications. But all that to say is it was really ingrained of like what the service and service of others look like. And I was raised and groomed around that. Like, so my grandmother, she went to the nursing homes to sing
Wow.
and give services to like people who are sitting in nursing homes who some oftentimes their families were either too busy or forgot about them or they didn't have families at all and they were just in nursing homes. And so on fourth Sundays every month, we will go and we will sing songs
Oh,
and
wow.
read scripture and just like and like it was that level of just humility and service that I grew up in. And it really just taught me and groomed me to be the way that I show up now, where there's never an assignment that is too beneath me to be able to support and figure out what is my role to help somebody moving along. And so, so I did that. I had the best years, and like I said, it was tough. It was, I'm not gonna sit here and say that like I. See, if you think about Miami, think about glitz and glam and South Beach and perfect weather. And they may think about the hurricane season every now and then, but the reality of it is, my if you are not a part of a certain family or certain classes or just have certain aspects of things, it can be really tough. And although I had the privilege of like having my grandparents and my mom actually stayed at the home she was raised in, that's where I was raised as well. There were certain realities that I had to face as what had to face. Like there were limitations to things that I can do. I
Yeah.
saw that I couldn't go everywhere, do everything, and participate in things that I wanted to do, just simply because we couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And I think that, and like seeing my mom, like I said, work those two jobs and just do everything she can to make sure that I at least had the ability to say now that I had a great childhood. I knew when I that my repayment to her was to make sure that I took everything she worked for and maximize it and build and multiply it to be able to create and chart a path that is far greater than she even dreamed for herself as well. And
Yeah.
so um did that. So I had the opportunity to go to Florida A&M University, my undergrad student, and I studied public relations. And I would say when I studied, I was really trying to understand like what field matched me the most, right? And
Yeah.
so back when I was coming through school, the things that were the thing to do was first, like, the career aptitude test. I
Right.
took a free one online, and the ones that popped up for me as my results were to be either in communications and PR, hospitality, or to be a teacher. And the interesting thing enough about it is coming in. So the Florida school system, it was I because I went to church, I used to see a bunch of teachers complain and murmur about just the challenges of teaching and like from a budgetary perspective, from the resource perspective, from just the multiple things that teachers are in the K through 12 systems. They are teachers, they're social
Yeah.
workers,
Exactly.
they're coaches, they're motivators, there are a lot of things and there are a lot of barriers put in front of them. So I said that I was thinking about picking a career where I'll have be passionate about, but also have the most impact that I felt that I could really lean in on as well. And I would say that I had my grandmother was a teacher. My godparents were teachers, right? And it was a path that I knew I could take, but I just saw the limitations of it.
Right.
Um, and then when I looked at schools and looked at programs, FAMU had a lot of different people who worked through the programs who went off and were really successful working in media, working in communications. And I was like, well, let me try this out. Got to FAMU and really was blown away by broad the broad brilliance that was at the institution, but also so many people who looked like me, so many people who had high ambitions, high dreams, but
Yeah.
came from so many different fashions of life, right? And that was the first time that I saw the broad diversity representation even within being a Black American, right? And seeing like
Yeah.
that is so dynamic even with itself. And again, that opened my eyes more as well. And then did that, went to FAMU. I was super involved in FAMU when it comes to not only on my campus, but I also found the Public Relations Society of America. And we had a chapter on campus. And then the chapter also is a part of a national network that I was really curious of how to get involved and see like what does representation, what does opportunity, what does access look like? Because when I went to national events for PRSSA, I didn't see enough of me or others that were there when I walked into the rooms.
Yeah.
And this was supposed to be the people who you were going to be your colleagues for the rest of your career.
Right.
But what I didn't see was enough of Black and brown people. And the question I had was why? And when I started to unpack the why, it went to access, it went to opportunity, but it also went to but the biggest piece beyond the first two was awareness. There are a lot of folks on these
Right.
campuses
Exactly.
who are not aware about what this broader opportunity of PRSSA was, but also how they can connect to it as well. And that, Joe, frankly, started my path of formally being involved with the work that I do the day to day today. And then there's even a longer story we can go into detail
Yeah,
around
no,
my the
but it's a
career, but
really,
that's kind of the background from
it's a really
childhood.
good, yeah, no, it's a really good point, Eric, because there's a lot in there. Just, like, just to unpack a second, because there's some really good stuff in there. I mean, first and foremost is, the one thing that's great about Eric with the conversations we've had,
Hmm.
and you could see it in even how he talks about this, is that Eric rarely complains. He tries to find the solution or the
Yeah.
process to get to the path that is better for him. It's better for, but more than him, it's for others too.
Hmm.
And I think we've had those conversations where he's asked me, because I'm a lot older than Eric. Also, I'm in Florida, so you can see the light beaming through me. So Eric went up to the north. I came down south. He told me how great it was, so that's why I moved. No, we're just kidding. We both
I'm
love
about to say,
Florida.
absolutely.
But I do think there's a lot in here that, like, it's about exploring, and I think for those of you who are listening, it's
Yeah.
about exploring the paths to success, and success means different things for
Yeah.
everybody, right?
It
It doesn't
does.
just mean, like, a path to, like, notoriety or money or all those other things.
Hmm.
It's you wanted to figure out a career, and you're trying to open doors for others too, not just for
Yeah.
yourself. And I
Yeah.
think you really hit it on the point. Access, but even more than access is awareness. And the first
Yeah.
step of this is people being aware of things. And
Yeah.
we talked a lot about that in the transformation of the PR industry, and, like, how
Hmm.
come the diverse representation may not be what we like it to be, or where
Yeah.
where it should be compared to other industries, right? And I
Yeah.
think you hit on it in a really meaningful way. And it has, look, there's still a long way to go, but it has come
Yeah.
a lot, pretty far in 5 years, where we continue to show that. And that's why the Planck Center is important.
Yeah.
There's other organizations in other states. So take that, you move through college. I mean, you're
Hmm.
actually, and we'll jump to this in a second, but you're studying now to continue to learn for your
Hmm.
PhD, and
Yeah.
you talked about being in PR and communications, so the teacher part still stayed there, right? It
It
didn't go
did.
away.
It did.
Um,
It's funny how it manifested, right?
right,
Because
exactly.
although I said I didn't want to be a teacher like in the classroom, I I love to learn.
Yeah,
And beyond, and once I learn something, I have a passion to share it, right? And another big thing about teachers is they're facilitators, and so facilitating is not always talking to people or at people. A
yeah,
lot of times it's creating spaces for folks to listen to one another. And that's what I found. Like, I often consider myself and talking about myself as being passionate about being a bridge builder. And when you build bridges, you have to, I think you literally have to be able to see where different points of views are, see where different ends are, different point people ends are, and figure out a way to build those connections. And when it comes to people dynamics, it is really understanding where two different sides are and trying to find commonalities or at least places that brings us together so we can listen and truly understand each other, and then be able to understand how do we come together and move forward together. And that's harder said than done.
yeah.
I'm sorry, it's easier said than done, rather. But it's if you work at it and you try at it and you say this is my goal to build bridges, you find you find ways, and you meet other people, i.e., when you and I met, we had different perspectives, we had different ways of getting there, but we stopped to listen to what each other were saying, and we figured out a path together.
Yeah, and I think that you hit again, the listening part, and you're right about this, is such a
Yeah.
muscle that we don't use enough. I think people are, especially in the fast-paced world where information is immediate, like we get it
Hmm.
so fast. And some of it we don't even know if it's true or not, right? So we're getting
Yeah.
this information in real time. We have to kind of filter it, and we all react. We're human beings. Like we have emotions, we react. I think part of it is, and you and I had this conversation about a week or so ago. Eric is really, and I've known him like since 5 years. We've talked a lot and we've had a lot of
Yeah.
conversations. He is really, proven the might behind listening. Like
Yeah.
sometimes we were talking a couple of weeks ago. Like we have just take a pause. Like think
Yeah.
about what the person's saying. Pause even before you react or before you
Hmm.
say anything, because sometimes our emotions get the better of us and they
Yeah.
pull us in directions, and we're not even. And we think we heard what we heard, but we didn't
Yeah.
really. And then when you take that moment, so Eric's been. I mean, he's really started to really master that skill, and he's even. I mean, he's taught me a lot about it. Like pause, take a breath, think about what we're going to
Yeah.
say. And I think we all could learn from that and understand like it's about listening before we're all formulating ideas in our mind when somebody's talking about what we're
Hmm.
going to say next. Because
Hmm.
again, it's partially how we're trained and partially
Yeah.
how the world reacts. But I do think it's a really good point. And so let's use that. You learned a
Yeah.
lot, you listened a lot over the last couple of years, and we'll go into the last segment of this.
Hmm.
You're now like, well into your career, you listen to a lot. What do you
Yeah.
think, give us like one or two things that you learned to listen to or that you think we're going to go into that
Hmm.
has helped you, but others should maybe, I'm not saying you're not here to preach, and I know you don't do that anyway. But like,
Yeah.
if it's in a way that's just like, here's what I've gotten and how that's helped me to, establish relationships, be a better
Yeah.
communicator, things like that.
The first
And
thing I would say is slowing down. I think that's like in a world where we're all rushing and we're trying to get to we're trying to get to the answer or the solution quick and fast and efficient. Um, we lose the plot of being intentional, right? And so there is a way we want like it's about asking like, why are we what are we rushing for, right? What are we gaining by rushing to get to a solution? And if we just take a step back and just pause and consume and digest what we are seeing, what we're hearing, it can really go a long way from having to be able to build a perspective,
right,
right? And not only build your own perspective, understand other people's perspective to figure out, are we really saying two different things?
yes,
I find myself doing that more and more and even practicing it, even when I receive feedback too. Because another part about listening is there are going to be certain things. I think you brought it up when you were reflecting on what I said earlier. Is there sometimes there are going to be things that you really that hurt to hear, or it's not the most comfortable thing to hear. But every time, most times when as humans we get uncomfortable, we try to figure out what's the solution or how to like band-aid it or how to feel good, how to move forward from this uncomfortable feeling. But there's a lot of power of just sitting in uncomfortability for a bit and
yeah,
then asking yourself, what about this makes me uncomfortable and why? And then seeing if that's a part of self-reflection to see it as a point in a space for you to be able to grow. And I would say, like for me, coming into this work formally from a DE&I perspective, I came in with a lot. I didn't realize it, but I came in a lot really prideful, as like I will be the one with all the
right,
answers and to fix some of the things, and you have to depend on me. And I learned very quickly I did not have all the answers. I had some perspectives, but they meant nothing without the true context of what I was walking into to understand. But it really took me having to pause, receive a lot of feedback, and then
yeah,
stop myself from reacting to how I felt from getting that feedback and really process and understand what people were telling me and what they weren't telling me. And then finding out the secret sauce that was that was underlying in all of it. So I
yeah,
would say the first thing
that's great,
I would start there. I would start with you have to really slow down,
yeah.
pause, and really digest and consume what's being shared with us for sure.
And I think that, one of the things we didn't tell the audience is that you came in to M Booth at a time when it was right after the murder of George Floyd.
I did.
I mean, M Booth, thankfully, I mean, and it's a great legacy. We
Hmm.
had a long-standing DEI program in the works that
Hmm.
we're continuing to refine. Eric really took it to another level, but he came in at a time when emotions were really high.
Yeah.
When it really did take a moment, it did take some time to think and listen and hear what was going on. And everybody had the right and is entitled to their feelings and their emotions, how those with those situations
Hmm.
come. Just as you said before, you came from an upbringing and an environment
Hmm.
that you saw different things, and it gave you
Yeah.
perspective on how you react. Just as like Myra's
Yeah.
was different, we both felt horrible about it, but we came from
Hmm.
different lenses of it, right? So
Hmm.
I think those are really important things to say. So taking that pause is really
Yeah.
important. You know, anything
Yeah.
you want to add to that, and then I'll just ask you one last question before we end up to.
I would say, like, yeah, I go back to like from upbringing to my college experiences to my grad school experiences and my earlier career prior to getting the in booth really trained me to step into the role and stretch and be stretched the way that I was when I took the role at Booth, right? So I would say a couple of things, right? And before I moved to New York, I was living in DC and I was working in a public affairs role, and and I love the city in the metropolitan area of the DC metro area, especially the local area, because you meet some of the most incredibly smart people who are wickedly smart at like the most detailed and like random things that you didn't think nobody even cared about. And so I worked at the power company. I worked at the power company in the DC area, and because I was on the public affairs and community activist team, I was charged with helping communities understand the nuance and the details of what we were doing from an infrastructure perspective.
Right. Okay.
What that trained me to do was be able to go into different areas throughout the metropolitan area of the DMV and meet folks from different walks of life, had many concerns, many perspectives, and truly listen and understand what those concerns and perspectives are and meet them where they are and take them on a journey to where we were going for the organization. Now, flash forward, it's time for me to come in the booth. And it's not the same, but very different. But some of those same principles of listening, being empathetic,
Yeah.
but also trying to find the common ground made it really important. And again, the one thing I really love about the way we approached it, and Joe, you and I talked about this a lot, was it wasn't about we did the work not per se for the accolades or
Yeah. Exactly.
the
Right.
to be the best or to put reports out. In fact, we made the conscious decision to not apply for awards for like a long time, like a
Yeah.
very long time, about anything because we wanted to focus on getting it right for the people. And I think that it kind of goes back to I want to share is like check the intent of why we do the work, and
Yes.
I don't care what it is, whether it's communications, whether it's building a campaign, whether it's building a business strategy, whatever. Check the intent, right? And the intent. Profits are important. Revenue is needed, right? We're running businesses here, yes, but check in why people are motivated to come work at your organization. Check
Right.
in why people actually choose your product and your service over the other one. And keep that at the center of how you make decisions. Because as times go up and down, left or right, you or businesses and leaders are going to have to maintain and be anchored in those values, in their why.
Yes.
And what I'm concerned about and what I am hopeful but also cautious, I'm hopeful but I'm also watching this is that as we see the shifts and the dynamics of what we're going through and dealing with a lot of change, a lot of uncertainty as society, that it reminds us or we find our way back to what made us amazing and great in the first place, which was our values, which is our beliefs, but also our true north, right? And the one thing I would say Bessie Plank talks about often before in her lifetime was never losing your true north.
Yeah.
And I really want us to rediscover if we've lost it, but also just recommit to what our true north is. And it can't always be about revenue. It can't always be about operational efficiencies. It has to be about being better and growing for a purpose of service and providing for others as well.
Yeah, and I love that you hit on Betsy Plank and the Plank Center, because the Plank Center's whole mission is to keep and grow the profession, to keep and grow that group of communicators, and it's staying
Hmm.
true to the actual mission, right? It's not about
Yeah.
any one person. It's not about any one thing. It's about the
Hmm.
community. And I think you're right. There's going to be change all along the way, and
Always.
we know that's going to happen always, right? And I
Hmm.
think it's we as long as we stay true to our values and we adapt in the environments and time. It's very different. Like you mentioned, all the environments. You have Miami, you have DC, you have New York, you have Chicago. I'm on the west coast of Florida. I lived my entire
Yeah.
life in New York. It's very different where you are. But if you stay true to who you are and listen
Hmm.
and take the time, people, for the most part, respect you, but
Yeah.
also you have better dialogue and you solve
Yeah.
problems together. You use the word together a lot, and I think that's really important.
Hmm.
Eric, one last thing before I let you go, and thank you again for doing this.
Of
And of
course.
course, we'll talk 1,000 times in the next month. But the name of this podcast is Keep Going, because we've talked about it.
Hmm.
A lot of us come up against difficult things, and sometimes there's no choice but to keep going. So for
Yeah.
you, overcoming challenges, what is your personal definition of what it means to keep going?
Hmm.
And I'm putting you
My
on the spot a little bit here.
That's so
So,
good. My personal definition of what it means to keep going is no matter the doubt, even the self-doubt, right? Because that's something I personally battle with often, transparently for those who are watching and listening, is self-doubt and self-limitations. To just remember that I am guided and there is reasons why I'm in every room and invited to every conversation. There is a purpose for me to be there. And keep going means for me is to keep this is to stay seek is to continue to seek that purpose, continue to seek that why. And throughout all the uncertainty, throughout all the imposter syndrome, throughout all the questions that may come from self or others, just keep putting one foot in front of the other and just be really confident in the fact that you will figure it out. And then you will be granted the tools that you need and the tools and the people that you need to help you navigate forward. But you do have to start with trusting yourself, believing in yourself, as well as honoring yourself throughout that process as well.
no, that is perfect. I love that answer. Eric Winkfield from M Booth and a million other things. Eric's already accomplished a whole bunch of things already. He's got
Thanks, Joe.
a whole bunch to accomplish, and hopefully some of that we'll do together.
Yes,
I'm sure you'll hear more about Eric in the upcoming years. And there's a lot of great things ahead. So again, Eric, thank you again for joining us. This is
it's
Keep
my
Going.
pleasure.
I'm Joe Hamrahi, and we'll see you next time.